I remember when I first started to consider doing a podcast, and I quickly dismissed the thought because I thought to myself, it's going to be way too much tech. It's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be like way too difficult, and there's no way that I can do it. But I want you to know that wasn't true. Have you heard about Anchor by Spotify? Actually, you kind of have because you are listening to my podcast right now, which is an Anchor podcast. Anchor is literally the easiest way to make a podcast. Everything you need is all in one place, and it's absolutely free. So, Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from either your phone or your computer. When you host on Anchor, it's super easy to distribute because they distribute for you, basically. They push it out to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a lot more platforms. And it literally is everything that you need to make your podcast all in one place. I couldn't believe that it was free when I found out about it, but it absolutely is. So if that's something that you've been thinking about, if you want to start your own podcast, if you've had an idea rolling around in your brain, now is the time. All you have to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. Hello, and welcome to episode 55 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Did you miss me? I was gone for a couple of weeks. I missed you guys. I missed being here. I took a couple of week hiatus at the end of the summer. I went and saw my parents, which was awesome. I went with my daughters to go see my parents, my two grown daughters. And it was great. And then I just, was getting back to being acclimated to life with a child back in school because my two daughters are grown, but my son is only 10. So we're back to the school schedule routine. So I just needed a couple weeks to kind of do all of the things. But I'm back and I'm here with episode 55 today, which there's a lot of fives today. Episode 55 is called 5 Important Questions to Ask Yourself Right Now. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. But couple new things for September. And because I haven't recorded an episode in September yet, I want to make sure y'all know about these. The first thing is I just released a free 40-page coaching workbook and planner. This thing is blowing up. I'm super excited that so many people have already requested it because that lets me know that it truly is something that you guys need as wives of alcoholics. So the reason why I created this workbook and planner is because I remember back when my husband was really addicted, one of the major things that I struggled with was just the swirling in my head of just confusion and, feeling like I didn't know what to do. And it was just like this constant, my head just felt like this place of just constant confusion and, just not knowing, not being able to find my footing, basically, just, turning in all different directions. You've heard me say throwing spaghetti at the wall, that terminology, basically just trying to figure out what the heck to do. So I wanted to create something that would kind of help you work through those types of feelings if you're experiencing that as well. So the free coaching workbook and planner is where I will actually guide you through some of those things that I know can make a real difference in your situation. So it's broken down into 5 sections. There's an introduction section, coaching and guidance, worksheets and exercises, checklists and planners, and then some additional help for you at the end. So I really hope you grab this. The things in this workbook really, truly are things that I know from my personal experience can get you on the path to clarity, which is the opposite of that confusion that you're feeling right now, right? and also healing and peace. So I really want to share this with you. I always try to create things that were what I needed back then when my husband was deep in addiction. So I hope that you grab this. All you have to do is go to my website, marriedtoaddiction.com, and you will see the tab there for the coaching workbook and planner. So that's the free thing. The other thing is there is another great, awesome bonus for joining the Secret Sister Circle this month, in the month of September, which there's only a couple weeks left. So if you're going to do this, you need to do it quickly. Now, I haven't done this particular thing in 5 months. I'm doing it again for this month only. And it may be quite some time before I do it. What will be a third time. The second time I've offered it, basically what it is if you join the Secret Sister Circle over the next few days in September and you remain a member for 2 months, you will get my 30-day online program absolutely free at the end of your second month. So again, not something I do very often. It's a $97 value, my program is. So it is really a great, great time to join the Secret Sister Circle. If you are not familiar with that, just head to my website, marriedtoaddiction.com again, and check that out. It's my membership for wives of alcoholics, where we do a deep dive into a lot of things that I know you're struggling with right now, because they were the things that I struggled with as well. We go a lot deeper into them. We go into actually working through those things and healing through those things. Tons of support from other women who are in your same situation. I can't say enough about this membership. It has blessed me so much. And according to my members, it has really blessed them as well. So please go check that out. Again, the perfect time to join is right now, because at the end of your second month, you will get that program absolutely free. Okay. Those are the 2 tidbits that I wanted to share about September. Now we're going to get into today's podcast episode, which again is called 5 Important Questions to Ask Yourself Right Now. These are the things that I really think, when you sit down with yourself, which hopefully at some point you will recognize the value in needing to do this, and you are honest about what's going on in your life right now with your husband and how much chaos it's bringing into your life. These are some of the places where I think that you should start. These are the questions I think you should start with. The first one is the most important. That question is, am I in danger? Now, when I talk about my Secret Sister Circle, even on the page itself for where you sign up, where you join, I do say that it is not meant for women in abusive situations, because it's not. I don't have any experience with that personally or professionally. That's just a whole nother level of difficulty, and not something that I feel qualified to tackle. So I ask that if you are in that situation, that you do not sign up for that, because I cannot help you with that. And most importantly, the most important thing for you right now is to just get out and get safe, period. That's a hard stop. That's the one thing that I will always tell you, no matter what. Get out and get to safety. Unfortunately, some alcoholics can become violent when they are inebriated. So if that is the situation that you are in, you need to get to safety. So that is the first question that you need to ask yourself right now. The second question is, am I taking care of myself? That sounds really, if you had asked me that when my husband was really addicted, I would have said, no, and I don't have time for that right now. That is the least of my worries right now. I've found out since then that should have been the most of my worries. I had it completely backwards, and I can probably answer this question for you. Are you taking care of yourself? I bet you're not, because I absolutely was not doing so. And I'm sure you've heard me talk about before what that led me to. Heart palpitations, being covered in hives over much of my body throughout most of the day for months on end. Massive, massive anxiety, panic attacks, almost needing to be hospitalized because I was losing it. Like, I was absolutely losing it. And it was because I had that mindset of, no, I'm not taking care of myself. That's the least of my worries. And guess what? It ended up really taking me down. So many wives of alcoholics think that it's either not necessary because the problem is him, right? He's the one that I need to spend my time trying to fix and take care of. Or I don't have the time or the emotional bandwidth for that. I'm going through a really hard thing and there's not time to take care of myself. But it truly is, I promise you, the most important thing that you can do right now. Because for the obvious reasons that I just mentioned, you don't want to end up with even bigger problems because you're not doing that. And also think of your kids. If you have children in this situation, they already have one parent who is not in the position to help them right now and be there for them right now in the way that they should be. So if you're also not taking care of yourself and you are emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally depleted, then now your kids don't really have anybody who can be a source of strength for them in their life. So think about yourself first, but also think about your kids. Now, this doesn't mean when I say taking care of yourself, hopefully you've already listened to my episode that I did about self-care for wives of alcoholics, because it's different for us. It is not pedicures and massages and bubble baths. I mean, it can be sometimes, and that's great if you actually can do those things. But I'm talking about taking care of yourself at the most basic level, looking after your mental health, getting sleep, giving your body some decent nutrition because it is so taxed by all the stressful things that are going on around you in a home where there's somebody who is addicted. Basic self-care. That's what you need to be concentrating on right now. And it is super important. So please ask yourself if you're taking care of yourself right now, because you just have to. You have to. Question 3. Am I untying from the addiction? Now, have you heard me talk about untying before? This is absolutely a way that you need to take care of yourself. And this is another thing that is 100% necessary. If you have ever felt, or if you feel right now like you are going absolutely crazy because of your husband's addiction, it is because you are tied to it and you must learn to untie yourself. This can also be called detaching. I like to call it untying because it feels like you're so like it's just wrapped around you, right? Or you're wrapped around it, or your life is just so closely tied to it that I like the term untying because it really does keep you in bondage, like you would be if you were physically tied up. Like it can take you down that much. So that is another thing that is absolutely critical to ask yourself right now. And if the answer is no, that you are not doing what you can do to try to actively untie from this addiction, you must. You must. Because again, that is part of taking care of yourself. And and we could go really deep into this topic because there's a lot to unpack here. And we do that actually in the Secret Sister Circle. We have limited time, obviously, here on the podcast to do that. But it creates space not only for you to be able to focus on the things that you truly should be focusing on right now, but it also creates space for your husband, for him to start, looking in the mirror and doing some self-evaluation and starting to feel the consequences of his actions and hearing from God and how God might be trying to work in his life, all of those things. So untying is healthier for you. It's better for him. It's better for your kids. You must untie yourself. The fourth question is, do I have good boundaries in place? If you're like me, you really don't understand boundaries. If you are the wife of an alcoholic, I most certainly did not. I thought I knew what they were. I thought I was very clear on what they were. It could not have been further from the truth, what I thought that it was and what I thought that it meant. I just, again, recently saw somebody say that, something like, well, I tried to set boundaries that he couldn't do A, and he couldn't do B, and he couldn't do C, and he's doing all of it. Like he's breaking all of my boundaries. No, just no, that is not what boundaries are for. That is not what they mean. That is not how you create them. That is not how you set them. We cannot control another human being. You can't, especially a grown man. We were not meant to control another human being. We were not made to control another human being. And you can't. At the end of the day, you can't. Boundaries are not for your husband. It is not to tell your husband what he can and cannot do. Boundaries are for you, to protect you. Boundaries say, what will you do? Not what will you tell him to do and expect him to adhere to that, but what will you do? So an example would be like, if he does A, then I will do B. Not he's not allowed to do A. See the difference there? That is so important. You have got to get a better understanding around what boundaries mean and how they can serve you in your life, especially in a situation like this. They are critical. They're absolutely critical. The free coaching workbook that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode can actually help you start to think about those types of boundaries. So again, I just really, really encourage you to pick that up because I think that you can find it helpful in a number of different ways, boundaries included. The fifth question, do I have support? Again, back when my husband was deep in addiction, I had no support. None. I felt like an absolute island. And I know that a lot of you do as well. And it's not necessarily because we don't have anyone in our lives who can support us. In a lot of cases, it looks more like the people that we do have in our lives, they either don't really understand the depth of this and the breadth of this because they haven't gone through it, or we have shame, guilt, embarrassment, etc., around the situation, so we don't share it with anyone else. And basically, the way that it ends up playing out is we can be surrounded by people in our lives, but we feel like we can't talk to anyone. We can't talk to anyone about this. And that makes it so much harder because we already are dealing with a lot of loneliness. I remember one of the hardest parts for me was feeling like even when my husband was around, he wasn't around. And he was my best friend. And I really grieved the loss of that, the loss of having my person, being able to talk to somebody at the end of being able to talk to a sober person at the end of a long day, being able to talk to my person, being able to, get the support that I needed, or it felt so lonely. I just remember really, really struggling with that loneliness. So that's bad enough already. And then when you feel like you're just an island because you can't talk to anyone about this, it's devastating. It's a heavy, heavy thing to carry around. So you need support. You absolutely need support. A friend who's gone through this. There's, some church programs around this. There's Al-Anon. Of course, there's my programs and my membership that I have that I would love to include you in. One of the biggest benefits, I have asked a couple of times in my private group that comes along with the Secret Sister Circle, like what's the two things, let's say, that I think the last thing I said, what are the things that just really have meant the most to you as a member of the Secret Sister Circle? And one of the main things, if not the main thing that people said, was the support in the group, because there is such value, and it's just so good for your heart to just not only be able to really open up and talk about this with someone else, but to hear other people saying the same things that you're experiencing. And you're like, oh my gosh, they get it. Like that's happening to them too. Like we can talk about this together. Like I don't have to be ashamed about it. I don't have to feel guilty about it. I don't have to whatever, because she's going through it too. Like the exact same thing. So it is just invaluable to have that support and the guidance that comes along with that. In programs, a lot of times you will also receive a lot of guidance. I mean, in my membership, that's what I do. I think about all the things that I struggled with and what I've learned about them since then, and I help you through them. So that support is critical. You are not meant to go through this alone. Growing closer to the Lord is absolutely crucial as well, because at the end of the day, we are to get our needs met by Him ultimately. But that doesn't mean that we don't also need human encouragement, support. The whole iron sharpens iron thing it's in the Bible for a reason. We need each other. We are meant to hold each other up through difficulties like this. And nobody can do that for you like others who've been through it and been there. So I hope that's been helpful for you. The 5 questions again that you need to ask yourself right now as the wife of an alcoholic. Am I in danger? First and foremost. If you are, get safe. Am I taking care of myself? Not in the, by the world standards, but are you taking care of yourself in the way that you need to right now as the wife of an alcoholic? Are you untying from the addiction so that it doesn't keep you in bondage and pull you under with it? Do you have good boundaries in place? Critical. It's critical for your protection and your well-being. And lastly, do you have support? Another element that we just have to have when we're walking this path. So again, if you would like to join me in my Secret Sister Circle, that's what it's there for. You do get the program for free right now, which I would love to give you at the end of your second month of being a member. And also go grab that free coaching workbook if that sounds like something that could help you right now. As always, thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time. Quick question for you before I let you go today. Have you been to the Married to Addiction website? If you haven't, I would love if you would go pay it a visit. It's just marriedtoaddiction.com. And over there, you can see just a lot of different information about my podcast. There is a blog on there. There's some free resources for you. And there's also a few ways that you can actually get some help if you need a little more help and direction and support as you travel this difficult path with your addicted husband. So if you haven't yet, please go visit marriedtoaddiction.com. Thanks so much.